One crisp autumn afternoon, a curious teenager named Clara decided to explore the forest. She was determined to document the cryptid stories. Clara had always been fascinated by the supernatural, but even she felt a twinge of apprehension as she ventured deeper. The air grew cooler, and the silence was punctuated only by the rustle of leaves. After an hour of wandering, Clara stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood an ancient, gnarled tree, its bark twisted and scarred. Intrigued, she approached it, noticing a series of strange symbols etched into the trunk. As she examined the markings, a chill swept through the clearing, and she felt a sudden urge to leave. But just as she turned, a low growl resonated from the shadows. Heart racing, Clara spun around. From the underbrush emerged a figure, tall and gaunt, with eyes that gleamed like coals. Its skin was a sickly gray, stretched taut over bones, breath heaving in frosty puffs. Clara's instincts screamed at her to run, but fear rooted her in place. "Wendigo," she whispered, recalling the stories. The creature moved closer, its gaze locked onto her. Clara's mind raced. As she turned to run, the creature lunged. Adrenaline surging through her veins, she sprinted back into the forest. The growl followed, a haunting sound echoing through the trees, the sound of splintering wood and claws on stone. She zigzagged through the underbrush, heart pounding, her thoughts consumed by survival, fighting the fear of the horrible noises behind her. The heavy guttural breaths, the forest around her sounding as if it was being ripped to shreds, and knowing what those ripping claws would do if she stopped. After what felt like an eternity, she burst into a clearing, panting and disoriented. She peered behind her, searching to see if she was still being followed, but the Wendigo was gone. Sinking down against a tree, tears sliding down her face, shaken to her core. After a few moments, she looked up again and noticed something that stopped her blood cold. The strange symbols were carved into every tree in the clearing. The air thickening and becoming colder and colder, fog permeating the air now. Another death-curdling howl rose from the forest around her, her own scream joining the Wendigo's as she pulled herself up to run on. Clara ran desperately, battling her own gasping breath. Barely able to see through the fog, she found herself tumbling down a steep ravine. Rolling and sliding, her descent ended abruptly with a world-shaking crack. Her head bouncing off a rock, blood streaming down her face. A ringing pealed through her mind, so loudly she was only just able to hear the Wendigo's scream. Hot, acidic bile flooded up her throat as she gagged. Clara knew she couldn't run anymore. Dizzy, desperate, broken. She looked up, eyes glazed and vision fading. A cavern slowly came into focus. Another scream from the creature, making her head pound as she gagged again. Clara scrambled desperately, crawling into the cavern. Using the wall to ground herself, she ventured deeper. Cold, slick water ran down the walls. Her head still spinning, she clawed herself forward. Slipping and now sliding, she fell deeper into the cavern. Vision fading in and out, she pushed herself to her knees. As her vision steadied, she found herself staring at a human skull. Frozen, she looked around her slowly, her eyes seeing, gored piles of bone and viscera, her blood dripping down and pooling into the skull's socket. She whispered quietly, "Oh God, no," as the Wendigo's shadow rose slowly in front of her. Clara's scream joining the Wendigo's triumphant howl.